The war in Europe was collapsing fast, but on that cold spring morning in March 1945, nothing felt finished. American tanks were already deep inside Western Germany, pushing faster than anyone in Washington had planned. Roads were clogged with refugees, burned-out trucks, and retreating enemy units that no longer knew who was giving orders. Somewhere ahead, a German commander had made a decision that would bring him face to face with one of the most feared generals of the war. If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below. And when that moment came, he would say a sentence that stunned everyone in the room. "You'll have to kill me." What happened next would reveal more about George S. Patton than any battlefield victory ever could. By late March 1945, General Patton's Third Army was moving like a blade through southern Germany. After crossing the Rhine near Oppenheim on March 22nd, Patton did not slow down. He pushed east toward the main river, smashing through weakened German defences that no longer had fuel, air support, or clear leadership. Entire enemy units were surrendering without firing a shot. Others fought briefly, then broke apart. Patton knew the war was nearly over, but he also knew that the most dangerous moments often came at the end, when pride replaced strategy and desperate men tried to turn defeat into honour. On March 26th, Patton's forward elements reached the outskirts of a fortified German town, controlling a key road junction. The exact location barely mattered anymore, but the position did. Whoever held it could slow the American advance for days. Intelligence reports said a senior German commander was inside with several hundred troops. They had artillery, they had machine guns, and they had orders that came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Hold the town, delay the enemy, fight to the end if necessary. Patton hated delays more than bullets. He believed speed saved lives and hesitation killed them. As his armoured units fanned out, he ordered an immediate encirclement. Tanks blocked the exits. Infantry moved into position. Artillery units unlimbered their guns and waited. Patton did not order an attack. Instead, he did something he often did when the situation allowed it. He sent a message. The message was simple. The town was surrounded. Resistance was pointless. Surrender now and lives would be spared. Continue fighting and the town would be destroyed. The message was delivered under a white flag by an American officer who spoke German. The officer was told to bring back an answer quickly. Inside the town, the German commander was not a young fanatic or a desperate militia officer. He was a career soldier, likely in his late 40s or early 50s. He had survived years of war on multiple fronts. He knew exactly what the situation was. His radio barely worked. His supply trucks were gone. His men were exhausted, hungry, and shaken by constant air attacks. He understood that the war was lost, but he also understood something else: his oath, his uniform, and the fear of what surrender might mean in the eyes of his superiors, even now, even this late. When the American officer returned, he carried a short written response. The German commander refused to surrender. The note did not contain insults or threats. It was formal, cold, and final. He would defend the town. If Patton wanted it, he would have to take it by force. Patton read the message without visible reaction. Then he did something unexpected. He ordered the officer to go back again. This time, Patton added a personal note. He requested a meeting, face to face, under a flag of truce. He wanted to speak directly to the German commander. Many of Patton's staff thought this was a waste of time. Some thought it was dangerous. But Patton believed something most generals ignored. War was fought by people, not maps. And people could be influenced. The meeting was arranged that afternoon in a damaged stone building near the edge of town. Outside, American tanks sat with engines idling. Infantry watched every window. Inside, the air smelled of dust and smoke. 2 guards from each side stood near the walls, weapons lowered but ready. When Patton entered, he did not wear a helmet. He wore his polished boots, his ivory-handled pistols, and his general's uniform dusty from days of movement. He did not smile. He did not scowl. He walked in like a man who expected to be obeyed. The German commander stood when Patton entered. He was rigid, formal, and clearly exhausted. His uniform was worn, his face lined with fatigue. He saluted. Patton returned it briefly, then got straight to the point. Patton explained the situation in plain terms. The town was surrounded. American artillery could reduce it to rubble within hours. Air support was available. Reinforcements were not coming. The war was ending. He offered honourable surrender. The German commander and his men would be treated according to the Geneva Convention. Medical care would be provided. Civilians would be spared. The German commander listened without interrupting. When Patton finished, there was a long pause. Then the German officer spoke calmly, without anger or fear. "You'll have to kill me." The room went silent. This was not a dramatic challenge. It was not shouted. It was not emotional. It was a statement of fact, delivered by a man who believed his duty left him no other choice. He would not surrender his command. He would not order his men to lay down their arms. If the town fell, it would fall with him in it. Many men would have reacted with rage. Some would have ordered immediate bombardment. Others might have tried threats or insults. Patton did none of those things. Instead, he studied the German commander closely. He looked at his hands, his posture, his eyes. He saw not a fanatic, but a soldier trapped between orders and reality. Patton then said something that no one in the room expected. He told the German commander that killing him would be easy. Artillery could do it without effort. But that was not the point. The point was responsibility. Not to a collapsing regime, not to distant leaders hiding in bunkers, but to the men under his command, and to the civilians in the town. Patton reminded him that true command was not about dying at the right moment. It was about knowing when a fight no longer served any purpose. He spoke of battles he had fought, of men he had lost, and of decisions that haunted him. His voice was firm, not emotional. He was not lecturing. He was explaining. Then Patton delivered the line that changed everything. He told the German commander that if he refused to surrender, Patton would not kill him immediately. He would isolate the town, cut off food and water, and destroy it piece by piece. Every hour of resistance would cost lives. And when it was over, history would remember the commander not as brave, but as stubborn and useless. The German commander looked shaken for the first time. Patton then stood up. He said the meeting was over. He gave the German commander 1 hour to think. After that, operations would begin. As Patton walked out, one of his aides later recalled that the general looked tired, not angry. He had seen too many men die for nothing. He did not want one more town added to that list. Outside, American artillery crews waited. Fuses were checked. Coordinates were set. Infantry commanders briefed their men. Everyone knew what an assault would cost. Inside the town, the German commander returned to his headquarters. He gathered his officers. He explained the situation honestly. No speeches, no slogans, just facts. They discussed options. They discussed orders. They discussed what would happen to their men if the town was shelled. For the first time, the question was no longer about honour. It was about consequences. As the hour ticked down, Patton stood near his command vehicle, watching the town through binoculars. He had already made his decision. If there was no surrender, he would attack. He would not hesitate. But part of him hoped he wouldn't have to. With 10 minutes left, a white flag appeared at the edge of the town. An American officer approached cautiously. He carried a message. The German commander had agreed to surrender. But the condition he included would show exactly what Patton had done after being told, "You'll have to kill me," and why that moment mattered long after the war ended. The white flag did not wave proudly. It hung low, barely moving in the cold air. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Patton lowered his binoculars and let out a slow breath. He did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply nodded and told his aide to bring the German delegation forward. When the German commander arrived, he looked older than he had an hour earlier. His shoulders were heavy. His face was pale. He saluted Patton again, more slowly this time. Patton returned it. There were no speeches, no dramatic words. The German commander handed over his written surrender, formally transferring control of the town and ordering his men to lay down their arms. But there was one condition written clearly in the document. The German commander requested that responsibility for the surrender be placed entirely on him. He asked that his officers and enlisted men not be punished for the decision. He was willing to be taken prisoner separately, if necessary. It was his final attempt to protect the men who had followed him to the end. Patton read the condition carefully. Then he did something that surprised everyone again. He accepted it. Patton told the commander that the surrender was honourable and would be treated as such. The men would be processed as prisoners of war. Medical care would be provided. Civilians would be protected. There would be no reprisals. The town would be spared. The German commander would be treated according to his rank and service. The tension in the room finally broke, and not with relief, but with exhaustion. The war had taken everything from these men, and now it was finally loosening its grip. As American troops entered the town, they found something that had become common by late March 1945. Soldiers stacked rifles neatly in piles. Machine guns were unloaded and placed on the ground. Ammunition crates were opened and left untouched. Some German soldiers stared blankly. Others sat on curbs, heads in their hands. A few cried quietly. No one resisted. Patton watched the surrender from a distance. He did not want to turn it into a spectacle. To him, this was not a victory parade. It was a necessary ending. Later that evening, Patton spoke briefly with his staff. He did not boast about the outcome. He did not frame it as a clever trick or psychological victory. He said only that it saved lives. American lives, German lives, civilian lives. And that was enough. This moment mattered because it showed a side of Patton many people never expect. The loud, aggressive general who cursed, demanded speed, and pushed his army harder than anyone else was also capable of restraint. He understood that authority did not always come from force. Sometimes it came from knowing when not to use it. The German commander was transported to a prisoner of war facility later that night. He remained silent during the trip. According to American reports, he followed every instruction without resistance. He did not speak badly of his men. He did not complain. His war was over. For Patton, the advance continued the next morning. There was no pause, no delay. His Third Army kept moving east, crossing rivers, taking towns, and breaking through what remained of organized resistance. By early April, Germany was unraveling completely. Units surrendered by the thousands. Command structures collapsed. Orders contradicted each other or never arrived at all. Yet Patton never forgot moments like that meeting. He later told one of his officers that war tested character more than courage. Anyone could die for orders. Not everyone could live with responsibility. That sentence explains more about Patton than most battlefield stories ever will. By May 1945, the war in Europe was over. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 7th. The fighting stopped the next day. Patton stood among celebrating soldiers, but his mood was complicated. He believed the war had ended too softly for some and too brutally for others. He worried about what would come next. He worried about politics replacing clarity. He worried that the lessons learned in blood would be forgotten. The story of the German commander who said, "You'll have to kill me," stayed mostly buried in after-action reports and quiet recollections. It did not fit the simple image of Patton as a reckless warrior. It did not fit the clean narrative of victory through force alone. But it mattered. It mattered because it showed that even at the height of destruction, choice still existed. That command was not just about orders, but about judgment, and that sometimes the most powerful weapon on the battlefield was not a tank or artillery gun, but a moment of honesty between two men who understood exactly what war had already taken from them. Patton would die less than 2 years later, in December 1945, after a car accident in Germany. And his legacy would be debated for decades. Some would call him a genius. Others would call him dangerous. Many would remember his speeches, his temper, his speed. But moments like this one reveal the truth hidden beneath the noise. When faced with defiance, Patton did not reach first for destruction. He reached for responsibility. He forced an enemy commander to confront reality, not fear. And because of that, an entire town was spared. In war, that is not weakness. That is command. If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.